Hello everyone, today we'll have a look at Game Creator's last update 1.10 and everything that has changed. There are some welcome new changes and requirements that come accompanied with this update, so let's check them out. Before we start, I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. So I'm going to display the changelog on the screen right now, and as you can see there's a bunch of fixes, but there's also a couple of new actions and removed restrictions. So I wanted to demonstrate these as we often tend to just look forward to new assets, new modules, but sometimes updates actually include a lot of good changes, and this is definitely one of them. So first things first, in order to install this update, you will need to be on 2019 LTS or higher, and even with 2019 LTS you need to be on the latest version. So you need to be on 2019.4.11 in order to install this. If you picked up Traversal, you will have to do the same anyway. This is a really stable version of the LTS, so no issues here, so I wouldn't see this as a downside. I'd actually see this as an upside. But another thing is that the restriction for 2020 has been removed as well. So that's pretty good. You know, a couple of new requirements, but they're actually positive changes. So really nice one here. So let's start off by actually looking at the player. And one of the first things you'll see is that angular speed is no longer a slider. So let me actually bring up what it used to look like before. And as you can see, you know, there was a slider and it actually had some limits. So 720 was the highest value you could get. And this has now been removed. So you can basically, I mean, you know, that's going to take way too long. But you can set it to 1000 if you want. So yeah, that's one of the restrictions that has been removed. It's not something I'm going to demonstrate right now because it's really fast, but it's good to see that we have a bit more liberty there. Now next thing I'm going to show is a couple of the changes to the change camera action, or should I say actions. So what I'm going to do here is I created a local variable. Let me actually add 2 camera motors. Let me just duplicate this one, and I'm going to keep all the values the same except for the second one. I'm going to change it to a follow camera, change the offset so it actually is playable, and I'm going to drag in that second camera motor. So let's call this camera top down. It's a bit of a long name, I'm not sure why I did that. And under the player I'll add an empty, and we'll add a trigger here. Let's do key down, and I'm going to use the letter, I'm going to use the character Q, and let's add some actions here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the camera folder, and you will now see 2 different actions. So I'm going to add both here. There we go. And you know, as you can see, I'll show it on the screen right now. This is what the action used to look like. So it was just a one action, and changing it from a variable was actually not functional, so it didn't actually work, so despite it being in there. So that has been fixed, but in order to make things easier, it has been split up into 2 separate ones. So let's just include this one, grab a local variable, drag in the player, and we'll do the top down one. I'm going to set this to 1 second, hit play, and I should have assigned the camera motor first. There we go. So this is the original one. It's because I already had this scene and removed it, so normally it would pick it up automatically. And if I hit Q right now, we'll change camera motor from a variable. Now this is actually incredibly useful for a lot of different scenarios where you want to switch between motors based on variables. It was something that just wasn't working before, and that has now been fixed in a slightly different way. So it's now, you know, 2 actions, but really welcome. So that's the first thing. Next thing we're going to do is one I'm honestly incredibly happy with. This is such a great new action. I think this will be useful for a lot of people. I can definitely see being useful for me, and I'll show how elaborate it actually really is. So what we're going to do here is we're going to assign it to E, and we're going to look up material. Now we already had the change material action, which basically instantly changes material. Again, you know, great that it's there, but now we have something new. It's called material transition, and this is just, you know, awesome. Let's just say it like that. So I'm going to drag in the body here of our character, and on the character I'm going to add a different material. So I'm going to do white, and the reason I'm doing that is, despite it looking the same, is just to make sure all of these are, you know, changeable values. So there we go. Let's head back to our let's call these new actions. Perfect. So what we can do with this action is basically we can change a lot of properties. Now, something to keep in mind with properties is that the name, this has nothing to do with, you know, game creator, by the way. This has to do with Unity. Is that the name not always makes sense at first sight. So if I open up body, for example, and we inspect that material, in order to change the color, the property you would change is not albedo, but the property you change is color, and that's not visible here. Metallic, it would actually be metallic, but smoothness, for example, wouldn't be smoothness. So there's, you know, a couple of things to keep in mind here, and it gets really fun and it gets really exciting when I show what else you can do with this. So for now, we'll just keep it like is, and we're going to do metallic here, and we'll keep it to float. So basically, you know, you have a couple of options. You can either choose color or float, and float basically has a value. You can have a duration, so we can do 2 seconds, for example. This is really great as well, applied to child objects, something that often misses. It's really, you know, a comprehensive action. I'm really happy it's in there. We're going to add another weight. Well, let's just keep it like this for now and hit play. So as you can see, you know, it's really stark white. It's not metallic at all. And when I hit E, we're actually changing the metallic value here. And the nice thing here with the metallic value, and especially if you combine it with smoothness, I still have to look up what that property is really called, is that you could create, for example, that wet effect in a way if you just go into the water real quick, which is really, really nice. So let's turn that off. Now we can add a weight here. I don't, you know, it's not really necessary, but I just want to differentiate between these actions, so we actually see both of them happening. I'm going to do color, and I'm going to choose color here as a value, and I'm going to pick, I don't know, bluish. There we go. I'll keep the duration the same, so let's do 5. I just want to see what happens. We'll hit play again, and now when I press E, the first thing is that value, and then after the weight, we're changing to blue. And, you know, honestly, you know, don't have to explain that this is really, really cool and useful. And this can be used on a lot of different materials. So, you know, with custom shaders as well. So I'll quickly demonstrate this by picking a Cinti prefab for the character. Which one is it? Yeah, this one's fine. That actually uses a you know, a custom shader. So let's drag this in. So should have opened this up before. There we go. So yeah, as you can see, custom character, and when we select, you will see that this is a custom shader, really different, really different. And as you can see, you know, this is the primary color, and that's the cape. Pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do next is under new actions, I'm going to replace these missing objects, and I'm only going to select the cape here. So I'm not going to select anything else, I'm just going to select the cape. There we go. Now metallic will most likely still work. I don't think the custom shader changed that name property. But for the color, we have multiple colors here. So as you can see, there's a lot of different colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one, color primary, and make sure there's this lowercase, before, and we'll type in the entire property. So color primary, and we'll do red, because why not? If I hit play, and I select E, you'll see the metallic value change, and then after that wait, it's changing to red. But it's not changing the entire material color to red, it's just changing it for this object. And that's really cool, because as you can see, if we go back right now and we select that material, so here we go, and we select this value, it changes the color property for a lot of things here. So it's not simply that cape, it's pretty much everything. So if we were select the entire material property here, we change the color for everything. Now we have the luxury to literally select it per object. For character customization goals, this is honestly really great. I think this is definitely an amazing addition. It's going to allow for a lot more, and it gives us a lot of liberty, because it can be used with custom shaders as well. I haven't tried anything from Shader Graph, for example, to see if that works, but I don't really see why it shouldn't if it works with Cinti custom shaders as well. So really cool. I think this is definitely one of the best new actions there's been in quite a long time. It seems like such a minor thing until you actually realize what you can do with it. And yeah, like I said, character customization is definitely one of those things. But also the simple things, like for example changing that metallic and smoothness value in order to create that wet effect. Real simple without having to do that much about it. So I'm really happy with this action. It's a really welcome change. So there have been a couple of fixes as well, for example, for those creating first-person games where the head bobbing is no longer, an issue. So that's really good as well. But yeah, check it out for yourself. I think it's definitely worth updating. Obviously, for Traversal alone, it's worth it. But in general, the new actions here are really welcome changes. So I'm really happy about it. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.